He was born in Czechoslovakia, studied in France, he's living in Germany. He's using Python to make the sun shine and the wind blow. It's very, very romantic. I would not even read the rest. Very excited to have you here. Looking forward to our talk.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Miroslav Šedivý, and this is how my keyboard looks like. Yes, it's the standard US keyboard layout that I'm using for programming and also for other tasks. And it works great for all programming tasks and all other things as long as you are writing in English. Pretože ako náhle chcem napísať moje priezvisko Šedivý, tak potrebujem na to slovenskú klávesnicu, ktorá mi síce dá všetky mäkčenie a dĺžne, ale prehodí Z a Y a všetky ostatné zátvorky a takéto vandrujú niekde úplne inde a čísla treba používať so shiftom. Funktioniert alles so gut, bis man wieder scharfes S auf Deutsch schreibt. Und alle, die mich jetzt gerade verstehen, wissen bestimmt, dass es das große scharfe S gibt im Deutschen seit dem letzten Jahr. Und wie kriegt ihr das auf der deutschen Tastatur? Gar nicht. Česká klávesnice je podobná slovenské, ale Ž se dá ještě napsat, ale U s kroužkem už ne. Ale v podstatě to funguje docela dobře. Est-ce que quelqu'un a déjà écrit sur un clavier français? C'est une petite catastrophe, c'est la plus grande catastrophe que j'ai vue jusqu'alors. C'est pas QWER, c'est pas QWERTY, c'est AZERTY. Le M, il est ailleurs et le point, on le fait avec un shift. Por contrario, el teclado castellano-español es también un poco más diferente y si necesitas escribir algo en castellano, necesitas del teclado español para escribir signo de exclamación o de interrogación abiertos. Klawiatura polska jest bardzo podobna do amerykańskiej, ale jak chcecie napisać do kogoś, kto się nazywa Grzegorz Brzęczyszczykiewicz i mieszka w Chrzącie Żewošice powiat Wękowody, tak jest potrzeba polskiej klawiatury, dlatego że te kropki, kreski i ogonki jest możliwe napisać tylko na polskiej klawiaturze. La tastiera italiana un po' più complicata perché per scrivere lettere con accenti non si può usare il shift. Po svenska använder man med ring, a magyar ABC-ben kettős éles ékezetható, és kvankam Esperanto estas tre internacia lingvo. Existas kelkaj tre specialaj literoj. Ve türkçede büyük noktalı i ve küçük noktasız i var. And we have only scratched the surface. So. You see that if you want to write just in a few European languages, you can switch between the different keyboard layouts, but except for getting a few special characters, there are other characters that are just jumping around your keyboard, just like the dot, brackets, and quotes. So how can you write in different languages without getting met with all these special national keyboard layouts? You can use character maps, but remembering all the Unicode points is quite impossible, and to scroll in this program to find the character you need is also out of question. In the 80s, there was the compose key on some Unix terminal keyboards that allows you to type a lot of special characters in sequence. How it works? You define one key on your keyboard as compose key, and then you type a combination of two other characters that are quite easy to remember. So for example, if you want to type Šedivý with a S with Karen, the code for Karen is a C. So you type compose, C, and shift S. The same way you can type a lot of other characters. For example, the capital sharpest S is with compose, shift S, shift S. And there are plenty of other characters that you can type with this sequence. As I am not able to play piano, I am also not able to hold at the same time 3 or more keys. So this is really a very nice way to do the things. Where you can find the list of all these characters, it is in this file where there are over 6,000 lines with all the possibilities of combinations. They work also for completely different keyboard layouts, like with Greek or Cyrillic. This is just except of a few of them. If you want to define your own keyboard compose key sequences, you can define your own .xcompose in your home directory, where you can define, for example, the one thing that doesn't exist is the possibility to type in Greek letters with Latin keyboard. So, for example, compose GA would be like Greek alpha. It is one possibility how to type. So you can define your own characters, but there are, as I said, 6,000 other possibilities in the official compose file that is in your operating system. How can you define it? Because if you use a modern keyboard, you certainly don't have the compose key, but there are very probably a few keys that you don't really need for other purposes. So there is this file where there is a list of a few keys, like the menu, the right windows. If you use a modern ThinkPad, there is a print screen in the bottom row that you don't probably really need every time. So you can just, with set XKB map, you can define and say, okay, the menu or the right window is my compose key. And then it works like this, and you just type the menu and the sequence of two other characters. So we have now added one nice feature to our keyboard. What is the other one? Which other key we could replace? Yeah, it's caps lock. Preventing you from login or type your password since over 20 years. In the same file, you can tell that you want to use this caps lock, for example, as a control, because it's really next to your A, so it's very practical to use it, and you need control probably very often. And you just add to your set XKB map command, you add this one extra key value pair, and you have your caps lock immediately as a control. But that's not everything. You can have more. You can use your caps lock as a control when you press and hold it, and you press another character, or when you just hit it, you can use it as an escape. Because in the VI editor, escape is very often, and it is just on the more recent keyboards that the escape is so far away. It was not like that before. So if you install escape program, it will just work this way, and if you just hit your caps lock, it will work like escape, and if you hold it, it will be control. So now you just add these two lines into your init file. You put two smaller stickers on your keyboard, and we are ready to rock or to Vim. What is Vim? Vim is older than Python. Vim is a continuation or a new version of VI that is around since the 70s. It was created in 91 by Bram Moliner at the beginning as a port of VI for Amiga, and then he ported it to most other operating systems. In 2014, there came NeoVim as a fork that is more community-driven. Before Vim, there was VI, and even before VI, at the beginning, it was not really beginning, but in the Middle Ages of computing, it was the editor. You know these two guys? Dennis Ritchie and Ken Thompson, sitting in front of an PDP-11, the computer, and ASR33 is the terminal they are typing on. Do you know these two guys? Without these two guys, there would be no Unix, no BSD, no Linux, no Mac OS, just the Windows everywhere. So these are the authors of Unix that they created in the beginning of the 70s. And you see what they are working on. There is a keyboard and a roll of paper, a printer. And there were no real monitors at the time. So how can you edit a text on such a configuration? you have to communicate linearly. It means you type something, and all the printer can do is just print you a line or several lines. So if you want to write a text, you could use it as a typing machine, but typing machine, you cannot really change what you have already written. So they created the ed editor, and this is the ed editor. Everything that is with white background, it was me who typed it, and yellow is always the answer of the editor. With this way, I can edit files, I can change, I can substitute. Substitute, actually, it is from here that grep command comes from. And remember add, because add is the last editor that will always work on your computer. Even if the monitor, everything is broken, it will always work. And add is also the last instance to save your corrupted vimrc file, if you cannot edit it with Vim anymore. We are going to see a possibility that you can even correct or fix your corrupted vimrc file without using add, but it's a nice possibility to use it. Later in the 70s came this terminal, so it has a screen, and this is where Bill Joy created VI. Because it was already possible to move a cursor around and to edit the files in a more visual manner. The question is, where do the HJKL come from? You see that the keyboard was really that small, so there were no arrow keys, no home, no page up, page down, no numerical block. So everything was just on this keyboard, and you see the HJKL were directly on the keyboard with the arrows. You see the position of Control and Escape? You remember what I showed you before? Actually, Control and Escape were much nearer to the user, to your left pinky finger, I mean. And the HJKL come from the idea that what is H? You know what happens if you type Control H? It is backspace. Control J is new line. If you know the beginning of the ASCII table, before the character 32, before the space, there are probably some lines that you recognize. If you open a Windows file in Linux, you see sometimes like !M, and !M is the code 13. It's carriage return. So this is the way that you can type the ASCII characters below 32. You hold Control and then type a letter. And Control H is backspace, Control J is new line, and K and L just came to it. So you see that with your keyboard you can really edit everything, and you don't really need the arrow keys or your mouse. And this is what Vim or VI supports at maximum. The movements or commands are directly connected to your keyboard. Everything what is green are movements, so we are not limited to HJKL. You have really movements to move around your text very quickly. And other colors are other commands that you can compose like a grammar. So if someone says that, okay, I have to use HJKL is just a middle. And you have a lot of other commands that allow you to move around your document very quickly. Vim inspired a lot of other software. So there are shells, window managers, browsers, email program, and viewers, and even VI Paint. It's a graphical draw program that you can use like Vim. The Vim-like software means that for many tasks you can use HJKL for the movement and other keys as long as it makes sense to use them. The i3, perfect, was a very good, nice window manager. Unfortunately, moved the HJKL to one position to the right. So first thing you do if you install i3, just move them, remap them back to HJKL. There are also plenty of other software IDEs and editors that try to imitate VI mode, but they work from 50 up to 98%. It means that every now and then you just come to some situation where you cannot but it doesn't work as you expected it from VI. So it's not really a very good idea to use VI mode in the text editors, in other text editors. So now learning VI, is it worth the time? I always take this chart from XKCD, and it is not 50 times a day I'm editing something. It's really in hundreds of times every day. So if you use VI during every day for several hours and during your whole career, it's a really good idea to invest some time. Because if you compare it to this, how did you learn to drive a car? I suppose most of you here in this hall are editing text for more hours a day than you are driving a car, but you invested your time, money, and you think that you have to learn how to drive a car, and then hope that, okay, you have learned it once. All cars are the same. They are not. If you are sitting every day in a different car, there are some small places or some spots in the car that behave differently. How can you learn VI? You can try out. If you have a problem, you can always search at Stack Overflow, for example, how to exit it. But it's always a good idea to read a book. Because if there is something that you are using every day for a long time, the book will give you an overview, will give you an introduction, will guide you to use it at the best way possible, and will also show you things that you probably wouldn't think of. If I can recommend you a book for Vim, it is the Practical Vim that is around since 5 years, but it's a book that you can take in 10 years and it will always serve you very well. I have this book with a lot of post-its in it, and they are on pages where there are tips that I'm not still using and I'm trying to learn them. The other book, Modern Vim, it's in the print now. I'm lucky to be the technical reviewer of this book, and I can recommend it to you if you want to use Vim at an advanced level and use it as your IDE, and also to use it in many other places. Drew Nail, the author of these two books, is also author of Vimcasts. These are videocasts that will guide you and will teach you very useful tricks in general in Vim. I spoke about Vim. It is now in the version 8, and I mentioned NeoVim. So Vim is the main program that exists since '91. The author is, like in Python, is a BDFL, Benevolent Dictator for Life, and is also Dutch. It's Bram Molenaar. So like in Python, it's Guido van Rossum. And NeoVim forked from Vim 7.4 a few years ago. It's asynchronous. It means that if you have some tasks in the background, you can still access and work on your code document, and it will not block you, and it will show you the results of your auto-completion or of some linting or compilation. It will show you when they are available, but in between you can still access your text. It has a terminal, so you can communicate and start programs and communicate with the input-output of these programs directly from your editor. It has modern defaults, so there is no set no compatible, and it runs only on modern systems, so they dropped support of some older systems. The config file is somewhere else in a standard .config directory, and it's almost 100 compatible with your vimrc. It has Python NeoVim. We are going to have a look later. Okay, and now after a short introduction, we can start with Vim your Python. So how can you use Vim to work on your Python? Of course, it has syntax highlighting, automatic indenting. There is auto-completion from the text and also from the modules. Asynchronous linting, as I told before. It has Git support, so you see live which lines have changed, and you have a full support for commit and for other interaction with your Git repository. You can search with fuzzy search and fuzzy find and with Silver Searcher. And there are snippets, although I don't really like languages where you have to use snippets or automatic generation of code, because code is not for your computer, code is for someone who has to read it. So if it automatically generates a lot of lines, someone has to read them. So I prefer languages like Python, where you write really only a few lines and other persons can read them after you. It has folding, so you don't have to read the whole code. You will see just the headers of your functions or classes. It interacts with terminal and IPython. And it has spell checking only for strings and comments. So it doesn't spell check or highlight your variable names. And in the other way around, Python or NeoVim, you can install the Python NeoVim plugin, which is available also in Conda, or if you have a Pacman, so it means if you are Arch Linux or Ubuntu, or you can install it. And this will allow you to communicate from Python with your Vim instance or NeoVim instance. You just import attach, and then you have two possibilities. You can edit, you can connect to an existing NeoVim instance, or you can start your own instance. And then, like you are used to it in Python, you get the object of your document, and then you can manipulate directly with the lines, with text, or you can send Vim commands to your NeoVim instance. As an example, I created a plugin, this is just an excerpt of it, but it's really quite easy to write plugins in Python, which works with my email program. I'm using Mat and writing emails in NeoVim. In this case, when I write internally in our company email to one person, automatically it writes hello, the name of the person. If it is more people, it writes hello, with commas separated. And if it is more people, it writes just hello together. And if there is one email address from outside of the company, it adds the signature. Writing Vim or NeoVim plugins in Python allows you to work in the language that you know the best. Because in Python you have many more possibilities. You can interact with the database, with web services. You can import pandas and do some calculations. So there are really many possibilities. If you want to customize your Vim or NeoVim, it's always good to master the standard version without changing too much, because every time you log on some other computer, there will be not your configuration. So if you read the standard the standard Vim book, this practical Vim, it will show you everything without any configuration, without any plugins. If you customize your own Vim, at the beginning, it is a good idea to forbid the usage of arrow keys, so they don't do anything. That way you are forced to learn AJKL and also other movement keys. You can remap keys, which is not really a good idea, because then someone else on your computer or you on another computer will have problems with your muscle memory. You can shorten comments, sometimes a good idea, appearance, behavior, of course, and the plugins. I'm not going to show you the list of my plugins, because we would need another half an hour, or read my vimrc, because we would need another 3/4 of an hour. I invite you to be interested in what you are using, to search. We can talk afterwards. I can give you maybe some tips or ask you what you need. You can search online, but you should actually always understand what you put into your vimrc. Because if you just take some standard package of vimrc, like this package is like SPF 13, or there are other packages that tell you, okay, these are the 40 best plugins, you're not going to learn them really, and maybe there are even some plugins that are going to fight with each other. Your .dot files, so your vimrc and other files that you use for configuration, are your technical curriculum vitae. So it is something that you take with you. I can only recommend you to Git your .dot files, because when you change computers, change company, they always come with you, and you can work in the same environment on your home computer, on your work computer. One possibility is to have .dot files in your in a special directory and then symbolically link them. But another way that I found a few weeks ago is to create Git bear repository that is not in your .git but somewhere else, so that your shell doesn't see it every time and doesn't tell you about the differences with it. and also to configure it that it doesn't show the files that are not in it, that are not tracked. So if I am in my home directory and I do config st or status, I see only the files that I edit to my directory, to my Git repository. Then I can I can config with this config. I can add the special files that are at a special position in my home directory, and then commit them. And this is also the way that I can try out new things. I create a new branch, I add a few lines, and if my Vim is broken, I can always revert to another, to an older stable version. And this way you can communicate it or store it or push it to your private GitLab or other repository. Or if you want, you can also publish them on your public GitHub repository and share them with the world. So I hope that I could show you a little bit introduction, but encourage you to enjoy your tools. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Miroslav. We have a bunch of questions, so let's start with them. Oh, editor wars again. Come on, guys. What do you hate most about Vim? Was the one which was most upvoted?
Good question. I have to think about it.
So it looks like it works pretty well. Which auto-completion plugin is the best for Vim, and which one do you use?
I hacked my tab as a combination of several different plugins. So it auto-completes from what it sees in the same file as words. It completes something from Python or from the current programming language. Who asked the question can come to me and we can have a look at it afterwards.
Did you try the other keyboard layouts like Dvorak, Colmac? If yes, what is your experience in relation with or without Vim?
I'm sorry, I cannot type. I cannot play the piano, and I had already enough. It took me enough time to learn the QWERTY keyboard. Actually, I learned VI on the French keyboard on AZERTY during my studies. I didn't understand how anybody could write a text editor that is so not logical, but then I switched to QWERTY. I tried. I've seen Dvorak and Colmac, but if it is not printed on my keyboard, I never learned them.
Why in Vim do you need to tap several keys to just paste text out of clipboard?
From which clipboard? You have you have two clipboards, and I just need double quotes, asterisk, and P. It's like 3. Oh. Do you have on your keyboard like paste key or?
Maybe like Control V or something, like anyway. What cannot be done in Vim?
It cannot edit images.
Do you have a public .files repository?
I don't have my .files online, but we can have a look at them if you want.
Okay. Is there any Python refactoring plugin for Vim? So refactoring.
I don't know of any. I am refactoring it myself, and then I know that it will be. I have the also responsibility of the file afterwards if I edit it manually.
Do you prefer NeoVim over Vim? Why?
I switched from Vim to NeoVim 2 years ago and never returned to Vim 8. At that time, NeoVim supported the asynchronous, so it was for me it was much faster. Nowadays, you can use both of them, but NeoVim has some nicer features. So it's more open to changes, and the development of NeoVim is like it works.
Yeah, and the last one is a duplicate. So do you have .files repository? No. Well, thank you so much. This is very inspiring. I don't think we ever had an introduction in a dozen languages. I don't know if anyone's going to beat us anytime soon. So thank you once again.
Thank you.